to finish both the things in the shortest possible time. So this is just, we've already discussed the section, so I'll just fast forward it. Only thing I want to tell you is that the total width of the tunnel, which I have not mentioned earlier, has to be 4 meter. And this is the site, the crescent has already dissected. After that, you stain the capsule, the NDL capsule. You can do the capsule access if you're doing using an NDA chamber maintainer. You can do the capsule access under fluid, or you can use a viscoelastic. Nothing different in capsule access than other procedures. Only thing is, unlike phacoemulsification, your capsule access size has to be a little larger. It should not be less than 6 mm. Of course, if you have created a small capsule access, you should always create tangential cuts and enlarge the capsule access. And if your nucleus is really large, be sure that you make a large capsule access. Otherwise, while you're prolapsing the nucleus out of the bag into the chamber, then there are chances of zonular dehiscence. So after you have done this, the LDA chamber maintainer, now you can put it before or afterwards, and you enter with a bevel up, and you rotate it and put it down. This is the chamber entry with keratome in the pre-dissected tunnel, and this side pocket dissection is of paramount importance, as I already mentioned. The hydro dissection is then done to prolapse the nucleus out of the chamber into out of the bag into the NDA chamber. And you must ensure that while you are trying to do this, at no point of time, the chamber should collapse and the nucleus should touch the endothelium. So as soon as a part of it is out, you can inject viscoelastic both above and below the nucleus, so that at all times both the endothelium is protected, as well as there is a space that is created behind the nucleus also. If you are doing Blumenthal technique, initially Dr. Blumenthal had used a lens sheet slide. We use an iris repositor, and the modification which Dr. Malik has been telling was that it is his modification actually. If the pressure doesn't build up, your nucleus is large, you can actually tell the assistant to inject 2% methyl cellulose through the NDA chamber maintainer to build up the pressure. That really helps, and once the nucleus engages into the tunnel, as you see now the nucleus is engaged, and you can give intermittent pressure with the iris repositor, and you can use a needle in the other hand to debulk the nucleus and to guide the nucleus out. So this is what we call as assisted delivery. So once the nucleus is out, the same NDA chamber maintainer is so useful that if you if you connect it back to the BSS and the fluid runs, and it removes all the cortex and visco which is mixed within the chamber, and you don't have to fill much inside the chamber. So that is the advantage of using this technique. And this is with the NDA chamber maintainer on, you can use a cannula through the side port and help in washing the cortex. Now this section, as you can see, is so small. Usually nowadays I only insert a foldable IOL because of its advantages. The external incision, if you over the time, you can actually reduce it to 5, and sometimes my residents, one of them is sitting here, she has seen I've done it in 4.5 also. So over the time, as you gain experience, you can really modify your technique, and it works as good as that. So now I'll go to the chopping techniques in phaco, and I'll try to finish in time, so we have 2-3 speakers more left. And now coming to phaco chopping techniques, concurrently the ones which are being used are the divide and conquer, the stop and chop, direct chop, and flip and chip. The first 3 techniques are not for the soft one. For soft one we use the flip and chip. This is the technique which initially came in, where you can create trench so that it's like a Maltese cross, that you create a trench, and then you use two instruments to basically break the nucleus into 4 pieces. So the power is going to depend on the nucleus hardness, and this is the stop and chop. You create an initial trench, and then you use 2 instruments, whether 2 dialers, whether phaco and tip and the dialer, or a chopper. So depending on that, you can use 2 instruments. This is the technique which most of the residents, we tell them to start with. The initial phaco one is, again, the power is going to be suppose the nucleus is about grade 3, you use about 60% power. Again, it will depend on what kind of machine you are using, and the flow rate would be around 20-30 cc. And now after you learn the stop and chop technique, you graduate to direct chop techniques, because you use less power and there is decreased stress on the zonules, and of course it is a faster procedure. And the only thing you require is a good phaco machine which has a good surge control. Now in horizontal chop, which is best for the infusion cataracts, the initial movement of the chopper is from the periphery towards the center, and the important thing is you should have space to insert your chopper from the periphery. You should not be doing horizontal chop-ups in hard cataracts, so there's hardly any space for you to insert your chopper. If you try to do that in hard cataracts, you will end up in zonular dehiscence. So for that you need to use a vertical chop, which I'll show subsequently. So I put my chopper brought the chopper from the periphery to the center, and I have chopped. So this is a very simple technique. You just create a vacuum seal, catch hold of the nucleus. When you're creating a vacuum seal, that means your vacuum has to be high somewhere in 500s. And once you catch hold of the nucleus, you just don't let go of it. You just hold it, stabilize it with a chopper. You want to chop it from periphery to the center. So the initial chop for cataracts where you have a space to put your chopper in, you need a very sharp chopper. You can go in for blunt choppers when you're doing a horizontal chop, unlike a vertical chop which you require a sharp chopper. So subsequently, the lens aspiration, when your last piece comes, the procedure is saying you need to go parameters. Either you can control on the panel mode, or you can control it with your foot paddle itself. And at this stage, the vacuum should be very low. Now this is a vertical chop. You can see the chip is very hard, very sharp, and you go in the center, impale your nucleus, and your movement is this way. So it goes and it moves like this. Only thing is there is a little more stress on the zonules. So your vacuum has to be the vacuum seal has to be absolutely adequate. You catch hold of it, and you can see the movement now is from center to the periphery. So this is a vertical chop. The only problem in these cataracts is sometimes they're so leathery that you're not able to chop it across it. That is, it doesn't go through and through in leathery cataract, and you have difficulty. But otherwise, it's a very good procedure for hard cataracts. Of course, I'm not saying that you have to go in for all these things. If your machine doesn't warrant vacuums like 500 or 600, I think a better procedure would be an SICS for these cases rather than struggling. So this is of course one of the good machines. I should not be naming the machines, but it's a higher end machine which I am using it. And here, as you see, you can see the last pieces. You bring the vacuum down. I was working on 500 vacuum, and at this stage your vacuum should not be more than 100. Now this is a flip and chip. The idea is basically to debulk the nucleus, and once the nucleus is debulked, you just flip it across, let it stand vertically, and you emulsify it. So this is the flip and chip. I will not go to the posterior polar, which Dr. Sevlam will be discussing in detail later on. And that is it. I think now you can invite the next speaker. You can take the questions.
Thank you, Dr. Ruchi.